Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka MBT, and Genesis Points Update. I'm not editing this, and I'm putting it on the Clips channel because the people who care about Genesis and the people who care about the Genesis Points Update are like a subset of a subset of a subset. But I do still have a lot of thoughts about it, and I've got my little special guest down here who is sucking away at a bottle. So I figured I would just go through the points update, let you know how I feel about it, what I think will change while she tries and gets, 4 ounces of formula in her belly. So first and foremost, if you saw the update primer that came out a couple of days ago, you might have been a little concerned about the future of Genesis. I know I certainly was. There was a lot in there I think there was to be excited about. The way that events are changing is good, and they did highlight some of the problems in the format, but there was a lot that was concerning. So today we're going to see if those concerns kind of pan out into anything substantial. We'll begin with the Cool Toon hits. They talk a lot about how Cool Toon was the most represented deck, but still had a 50% win rate. I just want to be clear, I do think Cool Toon needs additional hits from the ones that existed at the 300th YCS. That deck is massively undercosted, so I'm not surprised to see them here. Clip to 6, Q to 6, and Synchro to 10, all pretty normal hits. I actually like these a great deal for a number of reasons. Firstly, Cool Toon Synchro is not an unpointed card. You play that card and you realize it's not unpointed. But secondly, right now the Cool Toon engine costs you 30 if you want to max out on Q and Clip. You can spend another 10 on Zaylin like I was, but I don't think that's justifiable anymore. Now it's going to cost you 36 for the base guys, and then an additional 30 for a 66-point total investment in the strategy. That's going to make it really hard for you to play the pointed tuner hand traps that made this deck very powerful because they can be used as part of a synchro material even if your individual pieces get negated. I think that this guarantees the best build of the deck moving forward is playing Heralds, probably like Herald of Orange and maybe even Herald of Green main. And to do that, you have to max out on Q, which means you're not going to be able to escape these 18 points. You will see a lot of people experimenting with only 2 Clip, which I think is justifiable, and probably only 2 Synchro as well, because 10 is a lot. But these are a big hit. I don't want these to be mischaracterized. This is a big change. Exo Sister Betrayal and Exo Sister Pax is fine. This to me just is sort of shuffling around. These Exo Sister decks were mostly on 1 Pax anyway because it's searchable and you want to spend your points on Michaelis, and that probably doesn't change too much as a result of this. But Betrayal being just this unbelievably powerful card that no points were concentrated in, while Pax, the playmaker from another era, had points associated with it, did feel kind of weird. Zaborg to 100, Spellcard, Solex, and Steel Stringed Sacrifice are all very funny hits. Zaborg to 100 is pretty obvious to anyone who is playing the extra deck version of the Monarch build. Not surprising that this is the change they went with. Spellcard, Solex, I also really like seeing hit. This was played in Monarch, but it was also played in the side deck of decks like Vanquish Soul, so this does a good job of like boxing out those at the same time. And Steel String Sacrifice is now the funniest card that's pointed. I don't think this is the difference maker. I really would have liked to have seen something like a big Eidos to 10. I think that a lot of decks are going to have no problem cutting to like few copies of Solex, cutting the Steel String Sacrifice and just playing the hand loop build, or doing what the second place in Swiss person was doing at Richmond and just playing heads up Monarch with what now 12 points of cards and 2 Pot of Greed, Radiant Typhoon Vision to 10 is a huge hit for Radiant Typhoon. That's 30 additional points that they now have to invest if they want to max out on this. But of course, they described Radiant Typhoon Vision's hit as something that also stops decks that were playing it as an engine. This is a really powerful card, especially post-board, to get to what you need and to put bodies on board if you want to like go into 3s. The Archmage Vandalism Assault, Archmage Varnish, Alteration, Medius the Pure, and Theo Realize are all very interesting. So, Assault, Alteration, and Medius, this all makes sense. All these cards are very powerful. The deck has 0 pointed cards right now. And Medius is also good as a hit to Doom Z and Elf Note, 2 decks that are not bad. I do think that that's good. Theo Realize to 5 is a little strange. I honestly would have preferred to see this card go to 100. A significant amount of the games of Genesis that are played using remote setups, and Theo Realize is questionably legal at those. I don't actually know the status of if it can or cannot be played in Genesis games over the internet, though I have heard different things from different judges, just because it requires one person to have knowledge of the other person's deck, and there's no real way to control for that. Regardless, I think this does a good job of putting a point cost associated with decks that play Medius without necessarily killing them. I think Archmage and Doomsy are cool to have in the format, even though they both go through Medius as a bridge. Malulu to 7 and Rahu to 10 are big deals as well. The big sell for Draco Tale is that while almost all of their cards were individually pointed, Rahu was free, so you could just load up on Rahus and play like a fusion good stuff engine, playing Shadows and the like. You can see the first place after Swiss and Richmond's deck for an example of that. That is now no longer playable. I think that Draco Tale will still exist in some capacity, but it'll be a much smaller engine with almost no recoverability, which is a lot of the problem of Draco Tale, that its grind game is just absolutely unbeatable. Sylvie of the White Forest to 5 is fine. White Forest is around. Sylvie of the White Forest is splashable in a lot of other decks as well, so not too big of a deal. And Foxy Tune and Rising Scale getting hit makes sense to me. Foxy Tune is just such a weird selection for a card that is pointed, just because they usually don't max out on it. But I personally don't care about this. I think that the Banish Punk deck is really good relative to its points total. This brings it more in line with other things, but doesn't even come close to kicking it out of the format. Let's talk about the Regenesis shift. So Regenesis to 10, Archfiend to 10, Code to 10, Warrior to 3, Sage to 7. This is a big deal that will have huge ramifications on a shitload of decks in Genesis. A non-zero amount of people are just splashing the Regenesises as something to do. And it gets better when, if you are a deck that isn't playing extra deck monsters, you can also splash like a small Dogmatica package that includes the new Dogmatica hand trap that's just absolutely bonkers. Because these cards play well with that card because of the stat lines. Where the Regenesises are most present, of course, is Vanquish Soul. And in Vanquish Soul, they have crazy typings for them. That deck usually plays 3 Code, 3 Archfiend, 3 Warrior, and like maybe 1 Sage. Now, of course, it can do that. And with respect to Vanquish Soul, once you start going down the list of things you can play with Vanquish Soul that are totally unpointed, because Vanquish Soul has a ton of points associated with the deck, you get into hot water almost immediately, because these cards are so much above the bar when it comes to what you should be splashing, that the next best thing is going to look terrible by association. For people who want to play Regenesis, I don't think this is that big of a deal. Archfiend to 10, you probably max out on, goes to 30. Regenesis to 10 is a big deal because that card is really integral to the playstyle and was not available. And you probably play like 1 Warrior, 1 Sage. A Code to 10 is a big deal, I'm not gonna lie. But It is interesting for sure. I think the points at Vanquish Soul are so bad that we will probably see these decreased. Like, I would like to see Code go down to like 5 and Warrior and Sage to be free. But that would still keep it mostly out of Vanquish Soul, just because that deck has so many points associated with it. Hand Trap math, as expected, Droll and Lockbird only went down to 20, still unplayable. Ash Blossom went up to 20, now unplayable. That's good, I think. I appreciate that Ash isn't super present in the format. Valor to 8 is strange, because 7 felt like a really good position for Valor, but I won't deny that it was an exceptionally good hand trap. Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill to 5 makes it now unplayable, because the card was already questionably playable, but was being played because of its interactions with KT and because it was 3. Snow Rabbit to 4 matters, but I think it still will be kind of ever-present, and I have no problem with that. I think Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit is exactly where we want a piece of interaction on your opponent's turn to be. Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion to 6 is also pretty important, because this card was seeing a ton of play. It was probably the most played hand trap after Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit with respect to points. I really don't have a lot of opinions on these changes. We'll see how it pans out. I do expect Ogre, Bell, and Valor to still be very playable. I don't think Ghost Mourner is going to see nearly as much play now. Here's some weird ones to that side deck. So if you were reading the previous thing, you know that I was very concerned that they were taking aim at the classic sideboard. For those of you that don't know, pretty much every single Genesis sideboard was 3 Cosmic Cyclone, 3 DD Crow, 3 Ultimate Slayer, 3 GAMCL, and then 3 of a card that helps you win the game going first. Like, that just ended up being what it was, because those cards were unpointed, were above the bar with respect to their individual slots, but hitting them was kind of a fool's errand, because you can just go to Twin Twister, you can just go to Kumungus, so I am actually really excited to see how they dealt with it, which is they just put a singleton point associated with a lot of these cards. This means that decks that are statted to have 100 points of interaction, think Monarch with Zaborg, but also think like Vanquish Soul, which has probably, I would say, 99 in engine that are almost non-negotiable. Now you can't play like the normal side deck. DD Crow to 1, means that you're still going to see it all the time. Cosmic to 1 means I probably will still be playing that over Twin Twister. Dark Ruler No More to 2 probably does take that out of contention. Ultimate Slayer to 1 is not that big of a deal, but they also hit Meilong, Garura, and Aggregator. This is a really strange way of dealing with this problem. I think that there are still very playable Synchros, Fusions, and Xyz that fill this role, especially Fusions. Like, no, you don't get to draw off Garura, but you can send fucking, a copy of a powerful card like Fossil Skull Warrior for removal on a future turn. I think probably you will see these cards specifically replaced by, like, just off the top of my head, Wind Pegasus Adagnister, Fossil Warrior, Skull Wagoner, Skull Warrior, depending on what your deck needs, and then, Valen or something. Mistaken Arrest at 10 is also good. I've seen a lot of people upset about Mistaken Arrest not being 100. I understand that, but this makes it unplayable. I want to be completely honest. When it comes to cards that win the game going first, this card going to 10 removes it from contention with a lot of unpointed cards that win the game going first. Like, if Solemn Judgment was a 2-point card and Solemn Strike was free, you would play Solemn Strike every time. So I don't think you will see Mistaken Arrest after this. I think you will probably see it replaced with, what's the other one? Not Mistaken Arrest, but Shared Ride, I think is probably the card that'll now occupy this slot. Some general downs. Book of Eclipse to 3 and Book of Moon to 4, really good. I think both of these cards are exceptionally cool, and I wish they were in the format. Moon specifically, I think, is kind of the cornerstone of a lot of really fun, lower-powered formats, and 4 is an exceptionally playable number. Darkhold to 1 is good. That card was already kind of negligible. Raigeki to 4 means it is now in consideration for the side deck. DDKC to 1 means it could potentially occupy the Mistaken Arrest slot. Evenly Matched to 7 is a little scary because this card was seeing a lot of play at 10. Putting it to 7, I think, makes it almost an auto-include in the sideboard for decks that do not have point costs associated with their strategies. Infip to 12 is fine. They're trying to see how far down they can bring Infip before people play it. I don't think it's 12, but if it gets to like 10, I think you will see it a lot. Pankratops to 5 is cool. I would like him to be a part of the sideboard, but 15 is a lot. Interrupted Kaiju Slumber to 10 is fine. It was always a little weird that this card was 33, didn't feel like it should be. Meowls to 3, or from 3 to 2, fine. Perulia 10 to 9, that matters for like Goatee and decks that are innately playing water monsters, but this card was also very playable at 10, so I think you'll see it a lot more. Heavy Storm to 6, Harpy's Feather Duster to 9. I mean, they're trying to make you play back row removal that's not Cosmic Cyclone, and I don't think it's going to happen. Lightning Storm to 12. I really do not want to see Lightning Storm in any of my games, but again, 12 is so many points that I don't think I will. Change of Heart to 6, Snatch Steal to 4, Reborn to 4. Snatch Steal and Reborn are not seeing play. I'm sorry. Then we have some just general decay from decks that are not seeing play at all. Diagram to 15, Union Hanger to 15. Gygas and Xeno to 0 are pretty substantial for the Jeff Jones style, like Hecka Hands Chimera deck, but I think are totally fine. Stratos to 0 is fine. I'm a big Fire King guy, so seeing Ulcanix and Kieran go down is pretty substantial. 3 Ponix, 3 Kieran now costs you 51 instead of 60, which means that if you play Ulcanix, you go to 69 rather than the 80 it used to cost. You could maybe play a second Ulcanix, but more realistically, you're probably going to now be able to just play 31 points worth of powerful non-engine or enablers or hand traps that you couldn't before. I was paying 15 points for the Rescue Ace just because, God, this deck needs fires that are playable, and there aren't a lot of them. Gigantic to 15 is fine. Chi Shao to 20 is fine. Barrier 15 is to fine. Rhoda to 33. What is the difference between Rhoda 35, 33? Same with Fossil Dig. Maybe they realized we had all of the Rhodas at 33, but these were at 35 for some reason. Misk from 75 to what? To what? To what? Now you can play Fossil Dig and Misk in the same deck. Crazy. Blaster Redox Temple Title. These were all telegraphed and I think are good. I think that the Dragon Ruler deck is a deck that we want to be part of the format just because it's a cool sell for new players, and it does big flashy combos even if it's not particularly powerful. Melody of Awakening Dragon, whatever. I don't care about Blue Eyes. Hits from the new set: Dark Magician to Destruction to 15, Gaze at Timaeus to 1. Both make sense. Gaze at Timaeus to 1 just to box out Dragoon, which is 100. DM Destruction to 15 means that people may play it, but I find it unlikely. The Makanko stuff going to 18 might seem crazy to you, but I will say we had a Makanko 100-point testing or 100-point play testing in the tank if these points didn't happen that I think was just straight up unbeatable. Like, this deck would have been a huge fucking problem for the format, and I am glad that they understood that and hit these cards before it became a problem. Sandwich Day to 3 is in line with the next several hits. Trade into 5, Celestial Observatory to 5, Ixchel to 5, Engage to 7, Into the Void to 7, TTC to 7, Upstart Goblin to 7, all designed to fuck over Dire specifically. We had a good run, folks, didn't we? Raiders Knight to 80, Utopia Double to 80, Fantastics Machinex to 80, and Dark Eradicator Warlock to 100. These are all meant to box out specific FTKs. So with respect to the actual hits, I'm actually thrilled about almost every hit on here. There's a couple that I think are kind of unnecessary. The punk hits could have been different, for instance. I don't love that cards like Eidos that are powerful just got away with it, but I will concede that pretty much everything I wanted to see from the individual decks got hit. The big deal here, of course, is that there was no word on the extremely playable and very popular Gravity Collapse, non-fusion area, soundproofed floodgates that win you the game out of the board on the spot that are totally unpointed. There is also no word on Dimensional Fissure. I had really hoped that making an impassioned plea with respect to the fact that hand traps are also stopped by this card would get it hit, but it didn't. It is still 0 points, which is horrifying. So on one hand, I am happy because I think the points were managed in the best way they could have been with respect to the decks that were popular at the 300th. But on the other hand, I'm really frustrated because there still are a bunch of cards I'm going to hate to sit across from legal at 0 in the format. A lot of people have been posting about how pessimistic they are about the state of Genesis after this. I don't think you should be more pessimistic than you were prior to the 300th. I think that noise is coming mostly from people who view the Genesis points update basically as a way to score points online rather than assess the viability of a format, the same way you will see like a Yugi boomer look at the most recent Yu-Gi-Oh! Ban list and be like, why did they ban Moon of the Closed Heaven? It doesn't even do anything. Completely contextless understanding of what's happening. I don't really have a problem with any of these hits. The only thing I have a problem with is the lack of hits on the cards that I am generally frustrated with, but that was the case prior to the points update anyway. I am very happy that a lot of the fears I had coming out of the update on Tuesday did not come to pass, and I am excited to play a bunch of new decks in Genesis. You're going to see them in 100-point playtesting over the next couple of days, but I hope you are excited as well. Let me know how you feel about the update, what you wish they would have hit, would have not hit, what you're jamming as a result of this list in the comments below. All right, bye-bye.